Hello, everyone. I can see people are joining. So we will let a few seconds for everyone to join our webinar. But our panelists are already here. In London, obviously, we are getting into the lockdown, so most of us are nicely at homes, except Navid. He's having a chance to be actually in his office, connecting from Dubai. All right, fantastic. We are getting new people. Next time I will play some background music, guys. So
I was just going to say, I think I can hear some music, so it's probably there already.
That's probably my busker outside leaking through.
Right, yeah.
I tried to minimize it.
Just tell them to turn it up a bit.
Yeah. There's people dancing in the street outside. They're really getting ready for closing down from tomorrow.
Well, yeah, last couple of days of freedom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. I think we can start slowly, and when people will be joining, they will be able to listen to us, because obviously at the beginning we will start with the introductions and what we will actually cover at this webinar. So just to let everyone know, I can see that someone is recommending you, Chris, to actually jump on the keyboard. So
you don't want that.
Next time.
It was my unfulfilled promise to learn piano during lockdown. It didn't happen, so it's just there to make
Probably it's got some programs that you can just push a button and it plays itself, right?
I do that to impress everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is like everyone had some challenges and some lists to do, but you know how it is when you're actually at home. All right, so just letting you know, for all of you, we have a Q&A session at the very end. So if you have any questions, please add this to the Q&A part of the webinar, which is on the bottom of your screen. So that will be much easier for us to gather those questions. Obviously, feel free to interact in the chat and to share your opinions. We will be able to see them. And if you have obviously any notes or any suggestions for the other webinars, just let us know. All right, fantastic. So today is actually a really nice webinar, and I'm so glad that we are all here because we got awesome, really great panelists today. I can see Agent is joining here as well, just to keep an eye on everything. But what today we will be discussing is what kind of technology stack you have implemented in your spaces and what kind of advices you can actually give to the other providers. Because obviously in our webinar, we will have quite a different audience. Some people will be having one location space, some people are opening their spaces, some of the people are actually managing bigger locations. And I'm sure that our conversation will help them a lot to actually think how to improve the current technological stack that they have. We will focus obviously not only on whatever you have implemented in your locations or whatever are your recommendations, but also how this directly influences your customers. So how do they feel about this technology, whether that actually helps you attract those customers, whether they feel safer, whether that helps you retain them. So all of this, we will discuss all of this today. And obviously, everyone, if you have any questions or suggestions, just let us know. So just to come to some small introductions, today we have Navid launching from Dubai. He's information technology manager at M1 Dynamics in Dubai and managing also NASF Dubai, working with Nexudus for a while. We have also Chris, who is emerging technologies coordinator at Wired Sussex. Launching from Brighton with us. So, and we can see your cat in the background as well, Chris, as you promised.
Perfect timing.
We have also James. Many of you probably know James already. He's Director of Technology and Innovation at Fora, connecting with us from London. And we have Shabat, who is Director at Tech Sapiens and CEO at COWORKTech. He's actually the only person who is not working directly in the co-working space, but he's actually helping a lot of different providers in managing all of this and helping a lot of Nexudus customers as well, in case if they have some technology questions.
So I'll try and keep very quiet.
No worries. On this session, please not. All right, fantastic. So let's start actually from the first question that I want to discuss with you, which is actually a bit about your technology stack, because obviously all of you are working in the co-working spaces that have some technologies like door access control system, maybe Wi-Fi connection, maybe some other booking system, and other technologies that you can think about. I'm sure all of our participant attendees are wondering what kind of technology you have implemented in your spaces and how this influences your customer base. Because we have a very diverse providers here, starting from a small co-working space, which is Chris is representing one. I would love you to also describe what kind of space you manage. So what sort of space it is, how big it is, and what kind of customer is your target customer, because it's also interesting how you connect the stack to the needs of your final customer. So Chris, I'm giving you the microphone. If you can let us know a bit more.
Yes. So my name's Chris, and I sort of look after all in-house tech in our co-working space, the Fusebox. Just a little bit of context, because I work for a company called Wired Sussex, but our space is called the Fusebox, so sometimes people get a bit confused. So several years ago, we we're based down in Brighton, and we ran a report to study and find out what made Brighton special as a sort of a tech sector. Because we found that loads of innovative businesses are starting up here, but there wasn't necessarily like a quantifiable reason as to why. So it came down to this, I won't go into too much detail, but it came down to this Brighton Fuse report, which was a big report that analysed all the different reasons why we were special, I suppose. And one of the real key reasons was how we fused art and creative sectors with technology. So being an organisation which supports the local technology sector, we decided that a good move for us to make would be to actually set up our own innovation space. So we run a sort of R&D, a collaborative R&D space is what we sort of describe ourselves as, where really we're trying to provide support to small businesses and startups. So we're very we're not for profit, so we're very much not on the competitive like pricing, even for many like standard co-working spaces, because we subsidize it quite heavily ourselves. And we provide a whole bunch of resources to our residents. Primarily, we focus on 4 key areas. So we have businesses working with immersive technology like virtual reality and augmented reality, connected, so things like 5G and the Internet of Things, intelligence, so AI and computer intelligence, and data, so data visualization and sectors like that. So we really identified these as the key areas we want to support. So we have opportunities like a Brighton Immersive Lab, where we provide all our startup companies with access to the latest VR hardware, equipment, headsets, cameras, motion capture equipment, and all the rest. And then we also, in partnership with Digital Catapult, set up a 5G test bed to allow people to test their 5G technology, again targeted at the really small end businesses. And we roll this all into a very low fee, about £90 a month. So including all the office space, we really try and keep our prices low. So that's sort of what we do as an area. As such, when we found Nexudus, we were really using like the most low-end, lo-fi solution possible. We had meeting rooms that were booked using pieces of paper on the wall. We invoiced everyone individually, and I spent a good chunk of my time chasing invoices from just we only have around 50 or so members, residents, and I could spend half my month chasing down invoices from people where things got missed or things like that. And so really that was kind of the offering. What we offered was technology and the space, but the actual sort of supportive systems really came into place when we got Nexudus. And I remember at the time that the price where we started out with Nexudus was actually less expensive than the iPad that we had on the front door just to do the signing in. No smart signing in. This was people just having to type in their email address, and the subscription was less expensive than that. So we were completely sold and very smitten with some of the most basic features. So although I have been really trying to sort of implement more as we go along, we're definitely the example of a vanilla setup, sort of trying to push a little bit further. One of the key areas that we really adapted well was we have, for instance, like the booking system. We can repurpose things quite efficiently. So they have a meeting room booking system, which is fantastic and really worked well for our meeting rooms. But one of the areas that we had particular need is we have all this equipment available to our members as well. Headsets, 3D 360 cameras, and these things can be taken out of the space and rented as well. So we decided to repurpose part of the booking system for meeting rooms to also allow people to book out equipment and hardware at the same time, which also, if we ever needed to invoice for it, that could also all be tied in as well. So there are little things like that. More recently, though, we've actually had to start stepping more rapidly into some of the more advanced features. I think notably, we haven't got the Wi-Fi control yet. I'm very, very jealous of people who do, and I'm working on that. But for our members and residents, the reassurance they wanted was to know how busy the space was on any given day. Before they made the effort to come into the office, it would be nice to know if it's going to be busier than what they feel comfortable with given COVID and being an open space. So by checking everyone in every day, we can now have a log of not only for contact tracing purposes, but also for being able to see a full history, everyone being able to check in regularly and see who's there. Is it worth their time to come in on that day? And that's really, that's been a real big point for everyone. Again, this also allowed us to roll out some of the contact-free checking in and things like that with the NFC side. And also it did, on the other side, COVID has meant that some of the iPads that we had positioned everywhere for booking meeting rooms have gone away. But the new portal on the Nexudus site, on the website, has really helped the residents and our members stay engaged and keep operating. I think that's the key stuff. I don't want to keep talking for too long, so
no worries. I mean, because obviously you are talking about implementing all of those things. Like, do you think that because it influenced your productivity, this we can see clearly, but what about your members? Were they influenced by this? Did they use it straight away? Did you need to convince them? Because obviously different spaces are different, so I'm just wondering about
exactly.
you.
So I mean, for us, it was, I think we had even though it was a very low-tech solution beforehand, we did have an established status quo, and it was quite difficult initially to get people who've been there for 2 years, and it was quite easy for them. It was just only a hassle for us. So it took a little while to get people on board and getting everyone setting up, just getting people to cancel their pre-existing standing orders and getting them all over onto the new systems. And trying to stop people coming to the front desk all the time asking to book meeting rooms when they know they can log in themselves. But now we've got everyone who was already a member on board. The new onboarding of members has been so efficient, and it's I think we've been getting a lot more high quality applications as well, because we have our own integrated application form. Beforehand, it was a Google form. It was pretty basic, and we certainly didn't have any CRM system to manage that pipeline. So we'd have different members of staff interjecting and offering, different times to come in for tours and dates, and it was getting a little bit out of hand. So for us, I think for the new members and the people joining particularly, they've really, it's like they don't know what it was like before, so they just see this clean process of getting involved.
Yeah, that's a really great comment, because people do underestimate basically those basics that actually make your space effective. And I remember we were talking about this with James. So actually, I know that we will talk about this later. But yeah, you were mentioning in our conversations before that onboarding process is very important. So let's jump on it, James, directly. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things we're seeing was the way we started with Nexus was slightly different. So, well, similar to what Chris said, we didn't know what the industry was like. So we need a leader in the industry to guide us. But as we evolved, we started to identify new areas that we had not seen before. And obviously, at the moment, in the current situation we are in, the onboarding process has transpired to be the most important thing, because you no longer have the human behavior of actually having companies coming at your door or ordering big offices. Now it's a lot of hub and spoke. So everybody's coming, they want 3 desks, 4 desks, they can just walk into your site. And we're seeing more and more of this. Even people we've never met before, they just walk in, we need a space for 5 days. So the onboarding process at the moment, because the way we run it, it's slightly different, is laborious. So one of the biggest things is the onboarding is so important that you flip the platform on its head, so it becomes subscription based. So it's easy for someone to just sign up and go ahead. And that is something I think the real estate industry is trying to figure out. Usually it was brick and mortar. You walk in, that's your office. Now technology has taken a spin on this, and obviously the current situation has amplified it to the nth degree, that we have to come up with innovative solutions to get people to just sit down and work. So yeah, the onboarding part is quite an important one for us.
That's a good point. And Jason, we'll come back to you after Navid, because I want Navid to let us know a bit more about the NASAP, because obviously we have Chris and James from the spaces in the UK, but Navid is coming from Dubai. So I understand you were saying on our session that Dubai is very technology sensitive. So if you can let us know a bit more about this.
Hello, hi. This is Naveed from NASAP. So it's a unique space when we talk about NASAP. Actually, when I initially joined M1 Dynamics as a company, this was the first project for me as a co-working space to handle. So there was a high demand from stakeholders and the owner in terms of the technology. So they were very clear and specific what they required from technology. So NASAP actually is a unique members-only club where we only provide membership to creative personalities, the entrepreneurs. And from the very beginning, we were very selective. So we have a residential building, apartments, which we offer to the members. At the same time, we offer them offices, open office, shared office spaces with many other amenities. It can go to the wellness, where we have the pools, garden pools, event spaces. So different memberships we offer here at NASAP. But as I said, it's a members only club. So our selection process is a little different than others. So they have to go through an orientation, and we do the selection based on their portfolio. The purpose is actually to bring the like-minded people together so that creativity can build up around. Now, when I joined NASAP, so as I said, the technology, there was a high demand from the technology. So for me to select a CRM, there was nothing actually being selected. So I explored many solutions, but I found Nexudus was offering me everything which I needed at that time. And most important was to have the native integration with the third-party applications. While the door locks was supposed to integrate with the CRM, and Salto did that, and Papercut and all of these things. So it was a very, very difficult initially to choose the right software. But yes, with the Nexudus, we integrated with the Papercut, with other applications in Salto. Now, to make it high tech, because Dubai is always being demanding with the technology, with 5G getting into place, and expats here are exposed to the technology from all over the world. So there is always a high expectation. So same thing, because we are expecting people from different countries and nationalities to join the space. So we knew that people will certainly ask for high, and we have to be different than the other co-working space, what they offer. Now, when it comes to the technology, having the Wi-Fi checking enabled, we should monitor who is into the space, because we have a huge capacity of 400 people, 500 people. So it is important for us to monitor who is coming in and who is going out. At the same time, our vision was to have a single reference for members to access the space. So we had to develop our own mobile application, which was a custom based, but ultimately it is based on the Nexudus platform. So that we can integrate F&B services into it, we can integrate remote door opening services into it, and we can have booking engine and everything. And at the same time, considering the design and our operational paradigm, the operational structure, It was all possible when we have used the open APIs offered by Nexudus. But down the line, I mean, 6 months later, we went live with NASAB, and members started appreciating because they don't have to approach to the operational team every time. They have the help desk system in the app. Booking system is so user friendly, and the mobile ordering for the F&B services, like they have to just select their location and select the type of food they need, and it gets delivered right away on their table. So it's been almost 2 years with NASAB. We are completing almost 2 years now, and the number of members have increased rapidly. I can say 400 members right on board right now, and with COVID situation happened throughout the world, this has encouraged people to work from home, and they wanted to have a secure place where they can work remotely, and we are offering them the secure and sanitized and hygienic place. Now, when it comes to the technology, and at the same time considering the hygiene, we have encouraged them to use the remote door lock openings and RFID stickers to authenticate with the paper cut, for example. And we also encourage them to use the same RFID sticker for opening their lockers. So they don't have to touch anything at all. They just simply need to tap on these readers, and then they can avail the service. Same thing for the F&B. If they can go to some restaurants here we have, they simply need to just tap, and then their profile gets visible. Yeah, so that's pretty much we do here.
Yeah, I remember those stickers. So those stickers, so essentially what Navid is talking about is that when you have your mobile phone, you can actually stick a sticker here. I think it was the logo of Salto, right?
Yeah, it is actually, so basically the type of doors we have installed here does not support the BLE technology. Otherwise, we could have used the BLE, and there was no requirement for that sticker. And I was in coordination with Salto for a long period of time just to have that sticker manufactured for us. So they were able to do that after a long debate and giving them the bulk order. And that helped us a lot, because that was not only helping us to open the doors, but that also helps us to authenticate with the paper cut and also with the digi-locks. But in the near future, we will be implementing Salto locks for the lockers as well. And Papercut was already doing its well job. But it was it was a very unique thing to have a sticker on the out, because all the members are appreciating that. I don't have to carry anything else. It's just the phone, and you just simply tap on the door on all the readers we have. Because our co-working space is not a building, actually. It is it's a place where we have gardens, we have outdoor pool. So there are many amenities which they can access outside of the building. And we have the gate barriers and locks outside to limit access to certain category of the membership. And it's all possible when we have restriction, door lock access. And Salto is doing that wonderfully.
Yeah, this is something that people don't know really, that those door access control systems can handle not only your doors, like the main door, but meeting room doors or lockers or the parking gates. So you actually
parking gates.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. I remember you were talking about
exactly, because even the gate barrier we have in the space is controlled by Salto, because certain memberships does not allow to have a parking space inside of the premises. So we have integrated the same gate barrier with the Salto, and people have access to that. They can either tap the card reader, they can tap on the card reader, or they can open the door from the app, which we have customized. So it's very funny, actually. I feel sometimes when a security person is watching the gate barrier opening and people are driving the car directly into the building. I mean, yeah, it's really fancy, and this attracts members about the high-tech society, and they talked about innovation. As I said earlier, the people here in our space are very creative. We have architects here, vloggers, so they think about creativity. And I think this is a sort of a small creativity which we have done here, and it's always been appreciated.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Navid. Yeah, because I'm mentioning that because I actually went to NASAB for a week of training. So I have seen all of this being built, which is really fascinating. Great, thank you, Navid. I want to jump to James now because actually Fora has a custom app as well, and you actually build a lot of different solutions as well. So if you can let us know a bit about Fora too. I'm sure a lot of people know it, but just making sure that some people who haven't heard will get it, and a bit about the technology as well.
So Fora is a premium workspace provider. We're predominantly in London. We have one site in Reading. We have around 12 buildings in the portfolio, with a couple more coming up in 2021. So we have a steep pipeline for the next couple of years. We started with Nexudus at the very, very beginning. We didn't even have one of our sites. And I remember back in 2015, we met Adrian. We're doing test pilots, pretending a site were in a room, pretending a meeting room was there. So we made so many different changes on top of it. But then, like Chris was saying, it was started off as vanilla and it just evolved. Now, obviously, we have multiple integrations, some of which are native and some of which we actually built ourselves into the Nexudus platform. Because obviously certain needs of our customers are slightly different to our competitors. So we target mostly the medium-sized businesses to enterprise, and their requirements are slightly different to the smaller entrepreneurs who want these mobile apps and want specific things. They're more millennials. So we have as part of our residents, there's a complete mixture. So what we try and do is simplify it for our residents as much as we can. We did, obviously, thanks to the Nexudus Open API, two-way API, may I say, it helped us a lot because we have a completely native app, which is our own, and we only integrate in areas where makes it seamless for our residents. So Nexudus as a base is amazing for operating a building. Obviously then, because of our specific requirements for companies who are 500 plus, requires a different type of operation. So we need to be more bespoke with them. So our app then toggles into other systems. So they just see one interface and then we just branch out into different avenues. But then again, the native integrations are fundamental, and they're so fundamental that they're seamless. So you've got the door access control. Obviously, we use as Abloy with the native integrator Doorflow, and then we also have PaperCut as our solution because that is, it's one of the best solutions. And Nexudus has built an amazing integration, which basically always works, which is great. Then obviously we have other things for check-ins. Like we were debating back in 2015 whether we did the Wi-Fi check-in, but for us, because it's sort of a members club, we didn't want that friction. So we just said, look, come in. This is our Wi-Fi. Just log in and you're in. It just requires a password. But it's well known within the network that it's a secure shared Wi-Fi. And then obviously where we differentiate, or might I say, is we invest heavily on the infrastructure. So then, because the IT team, our IT team are very technical, so we try and build bespoke solutions, infrastructure solutions for our customers. So in that case, most of them, the first thing they say is, no, we don't want you to control our Wi-Fi, we want our own. But we, obviously, the backbone, the fiber connectivity into the building, the data that we generate for them, if they require, that's where we're the backbone. They just don't want to worry about the building. They don't want to worry about how buildings are built, how they're utilized. They just want to access it. And they know that Fora can take care of everything else. So we're, again, a data-driven company, but it's service-led. So all our products, all our integrations that we create ourselves are a test and learn. And whatever can give us more information back to improve the customer experience in the next 6 months, then that is exactly what we'll do. So we focus heavily on integrations.
Fantastic, thank you, James. It's I feel like this is a different level of this approach. Basically, I mean, I feel like all of you are using those basics, obviously, in our system. But then that's the thing that you can build on it, and you can actually improve whatever your customers can see already on the site. Shabbat, I wonder what you can comment here. Obviously, you're talking with many spaces and you see a lot of different cases. So what you have seen in spaces usually being implemented, and what would be your recommendations here as well?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, and I hadn't heard sort of James describe what their approach to this before, and I think our approach is very similar. So it's quite interesting to hear that, it's the same sort of trying to tailor solutions and make them relevant for your audience. And I think the level of the depth that you can get into, as well as the breadth you can get into with technology, which is really important here. And with something like Nexudus sitting in the middle of it, all these integrations, you can really build out a really nice technology ecosystem. And I think that's what we do, is we help co-working spaces do that. James has spent 5 years doing it. We hope that most of our clients can get there a little bit faster. So I guess we've been doing it for about the same period of time, for about 5 years now. So, we've kind of had shared that journey in co-working and with Nexudus and things like that. I think definitely one of the things that we see is that there's no real one size fits all. There's a lot of best practices out there. There's a lot of solutions that are very good, but we've already heard from some of the others that, whether one uses Doorflow, the other one uses Solto. So I think there's a lot of great platforms and technologies out there. And sometimes the difficulty is choosing which one is most appropriate for that space. And I think the other is making sure that they all work together. So those are the sort of the challenges that we see more of. And because there is Easy for printing, there's Papercut for printing, there's lots of really good platforms and solutions out there. So it's really, how do you choose the ones that are right? How do you make sure that they are set up correctly? And how do you accelerate that process? And even within Nexudus, there's 4 different ways of doing the same thing. As as Chris was saying, you can set up equipment as a resource, but it doesn't always come to mind straight away. So all of those things that you have to think, how do we actually do this the way that makes most sense and that doesn't create problems for us in the future? Because that's something that we've seen as well, when the space goes down one route and then a year down the line they think, wish we hadn't done that because now we can't do this. So it's that sort of, I think those are the things that really are worth thinking about for spaces, is what technology to choose, how you set it up, and how you try and do it in a way that creates more options and doesn't limit you in the future.
That's a good point. I actually wanted Shabbal also to kind of jump on what Chris said, because obviously in his case, he's using some basic technologies. And we were talking before that because he's actually being an NGO at the same time, so he cannot invest too much money in certain technologies, which limits him. So we were talking about what's the investment in here and what would be the best way to go from here to actually, as Chris say, I want to implement the check-in system. What's the cost, and where do we start and what would be the next step, you see?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's sort of a balance between what all three, so Chris, James, and Naveed were saying, is partly it's an infrastructure thing, right? So it depends on how much you invest in the infrastructure, because the Wi-Fi system is only as good as the access points, the routers, the switches, and the internet. So you've got to build the backbone. You've got to make sure that it all works properly. But it's not always the same infrastructure that's right for every space, because in Chris's case, the budget is very different. And so they'll have to choose platforms and infrastructure that matches their needs. And also it's just not just budget, but also size, location, where in the market you are. So if you're a premium space or a mid-range space, all of these things are important. So you have to kind of try and see, right, what is the right level of infrastructure or the solution that's appropriate for this. So I think the nice thing about co-working now is there's a lot of platforms and vendors and options out there. So you can actually find one that fits your budget. You don't have to go for if you've got the budget, great. Here's what we recommend. We would probably put in the one that we know that will scale the best and perform the best. But you can equally spend probably 1/10 that and still have a system that works. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. Obviously, we will share Shabbat's email so you can email him and check what would be the best for you. But regarding obviously, we are now talking about what you have right now, but obviously the technology never stops. There are new inventions, there are new technologies, new systems coming in. Obviously, the situation is changing as well. So this year is the best example of how the situation can change in very short period of time. So I would like to hear from each of you basically what you have done in this year to either like keep your community connected, how did you change your processes, and what's on your pipeline for maybe future integrations or future tech stack. So Chris, I'm sure you're waiting here to jump in with yours, because we were talking that were interesting stuff happening in your case.
Yeah. So I mean, from our end, because I hear the other people talking about like technical teams and things. It's just me. So this is why maybe some of these things move a little bit slower in our case. But the one thing I really wanted to point out just quickly is the fact that someone like me can independently go in and rework whole systems to make them suit our needs. I mentioned that we had we had our own way of doing booking equipment, but another example is that we have to approve anyone who applies to be a resident first, because we have to interview them and check that they're appropriate to join with the rest of the community. So again, it's another area where I repurposed the tour form, and actually we were able to use the existing solution without having to outsource to developers to rework parts of the system. We just repurposed the way that Nexudus was working, and it's been working great for us. But going forwards, I've been looking at some of the more approachable areas, because you were saying that technology keeps moving forward, but also you guys keep bringing out new features, which is really good. And they're not just super high-end features. Things like Zapier integration has been a really exciting one for us, because some of the API stuff, reading APIs is fine, but unless you have the resources to actually develop something for it, it can be a little bit much. Zapier makes that very, very accessible. So we've been working on updating our own internal reporting systems and making certain that the rest of the team who are working from home can be better aware of new people joining the space or who's in on that particular day as well. So it's keeping them informed. One of the areas that I've been really interested in is because you added a feature for virtual meeting rooms and Zoom integration, which was great. But it actually got me thinking when I saw that was, how could we do virtual spaces in a different way? When I see virtual space, I think virtual reality, because that's what we do. So we actually have been working with a platform called Mozilla Hubs, which is a browser-based immersive platform that allows people to basically you can join on your computer, your phone, on a VR headset, and it's all hosted in a web browser. So we're integrating with Nexudus at the moment, or integrating with our Nexudus site at the moment, so that people can join and visit a virtual version of the Fusebox, and we can give them a guided tour around. We can exchange, we have conversation, but then at the same time, people can give presentations in the meeting rooms. And so we've actually managed to build, particularly with our community, which is admittedly quite tech savvy and very much clued into the virtual reality side, we've been able to look at adding that as part of the experience as well. So a new way of doing tours given COVID. Obviously, there's a lot of the sort of core features and things that Shabad works on that I really do want to get integrated in next. So we're looking at ways to do a check-in system, but again, a lot of the things like Wi-Fi check-in, door locking systems, and having swipe card access. Although our staff ratio isn't crazy high, there's two of us that mostly run the space day to day, day by day for about 50 residents. But because we're still quite small, we need to use technologies that scale well for us. So we're never going to reach 100 residents. We don't have the space to expand that much at the moment. So really, for us, we need to find the ways that are economical and valuable to just add that little bit of extra experience. So I think that's sort of the key areas. The other thing, of course, is the events. So we moved to hosting a lot of events virtually, including some which we've actually hosted virtually in a virtual version of our event space in Mozilla Hubs, which gets very, very convoluted and a bit meta. But by doing that, we've actually been able to keep our audience engaged. So it's been a first chance for us to really use that event system properly. And very, very lastly was when we actually set up Nexudus, we were so keen to get going and get off our old systems. I think the lockdown period where we did close the space gave us plenty of time to look through and just really solidify what we'd done with some of the systems. The CRM, the automated emails that were sent out by the CRM hadn't really been changed since the first day. We hadn't really gone back and looked at what's working, what's not, and we've been able to really refine our CRM process, which has been great. Again, with like the new Gmail integration and add-on that Nexudus has provided. Like little things like that make a big difference to small places like us.
That's a good comment actually. This is, again, we are always coming to this like basis, like if your basics do not work, then you should stop there and review them and then go forward. Actually, there's a question to you, Chris, because Stephen asks, because you have an option of virtual room on your website, and he asked how far are you through implementing that and how is it going? I guess you just went one step further and implemented the virtual reality.
So yeah, so at the moment we do have the virtual meeting rooms on our website. So when you see if you are on our website and you see virtual rooms, that's just the standard Nexudus meeting rooms. I can post, if it's okay to post in the chat, I can show an example of what I'm working on with our virtual version in a minute. So I'll put that in chat in a moment. But as I go forward, I'm looking to actually make it so the login system for Nexudus is how people connect and log into our personal version. At the moment, we're still using the open source cloud hosted free one because budget and trying to be efficient. So yeah,
it's also going to turn into a plot from the next Christopher Nolan film, right? Inception version 2, who's based in a co-working space.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's completely thrilling. I won't deviate too far into all the world of virtual reality, but some of the Ready Player One stuff, we actually get to work very closely with the actual companies that develop the technology for the movie, the stuff that their prototypes for in that movie. So yeah, we're not that far away.
This is actually quite interesting. So check it out. Chris will put it in the chat. I don't know, Navid, if you can chip in and tell us what has happened in NASAP and what is your pipeline at the moment regarding the technology?
Oh yeah, so as I earlier said that we have a custom app which is working on the Nexudus platform. So in the app, we realized that there is a requirement for the notification because it was very difficult sometimes to notify your members about the changes or about any last moment notification about anything, about an incident or something. So people are really used to the app notifications rather. So right now we are implementing notifications using Nexudus webhooks, and we are also looking into the Zapier to integrate with Nexudus. So the project is in the with the developer right now. We are doing a lot of brainstorming in it at what exactly is required. But this will give us a lot of flexibility when it comes to the notification, because we have the opportunities when we need to categorize a set of people, notifying them about certain changes in the space. Because by the time they see their email, for the note, it is already too late. So that's how we decided, no, there is a requirement for the notifications to happen. So that's something that we are right now implementing and will be soon ready with that. By the same time, we had implemented the F&B ordering in coordination with Revel. So we use Revel for our restaurant management solution. And as I said, this custom app, which is based on the Nexudus platform, is a hybrid application. Basically, it communicates to multiple third-party applications, but it all has to work hand in hand in order for us to achieve that goal. So the customer database is in Nexudus, and the restaurant manages their orders in Revel. So we have done this integration in such a smooth way that customers use our mobile app to place an order, and then it goes to the kitchen, and then it literally prints that order in the chef's kitchen printer as a docket. So they receive a docket, and then they see, okay, they ordered fish fillet or a burger or something. And they also have an iPad to look at the number of orders reached to them. And there are details mentioned about the member, their phone number in case they need to call them back for any reason. I mean, asking them for the preference of food, or their location might have got changed. So this thing actually helped us a lot during pandemic, because people are now more reluctant when it comes to the physical contact. They may not be preferring moving away from their seat. Okay, so it gives them a flexibility. A person can deliver the food right on their table. And here in our space, they can sit in an open space. They can go into the pool outside, and they can sit almost anywhere. I mean, it is their space they can explore. So each of the location is being given a number or a location in that case. So they can quickly look into the seat, what location they are at, and then while placing an order for the F&B, they select it, and we get a notification. And then the same docket in the restaurant management application, we can identify their location and deliver them the order. So this was placed, but we never went live with it. But since this pandemic happened, we realized that, oh, this will really help us a lot, eliminating that human touch. That's what is now required, maintaining the social distance, not going to the food counter and placing an order and waiting in the queue and stuff. So that's something which is happening right now. It's already live, but some modifications are happening. But with help of Nexudus and a clear flow between Ravel, Nexudus, and our app, we made it possible. Yeah. So
I see you are very proud of it, and it's actually really great. I mean, I don't think people even think about such ideas. That's the thing. If you have a very creative team that can sit down and brainstorm, and I have seen that in Nassab a lot when I was there, so you actually get those ideas flowing. Fantastic. That definitely gave some people interesting concepts. James, I know we were talking about the whole different ways you started to look at what you are doing right now, like the day passes and so on. Can you just let us know what has changed in Fora and what's your future basic at the moment?
Of course. So if someone ever told me I was implementing thermal cameras at the beginning of the year, I would have just said, you're just joking. But the amount of stuff we had to implement because of the pandemic, it actually pushed the bar. I think the office space as itself, landlords and a lot of real estate, they became complacent. So things need to change. And this is what this year has taught us. So yes, we did install integrated thermal cameras, which helps us identify if someone has a fever or not. But it's not very invasive. So we were going to go down with invasive ways of doing things, but I think sometimes it's a bit too much asking someone, can you stop here? So we just implemented a lot of different things to go into the customer work, the user experience. And that's what the most important is for us. Again, like we spoke about, all this contactless stuff was already there. I think people are actually using it more often now, like using just like Naveed was saying, we've got one card that does everything. So the card, you can print, you can use the lifts, you can open lockers, whatever it is, or unlock bikes. So it's just one card that does everything. And now, obviously, because of the pandemic, there's a new metric that is required. And it's all about the density. It's all about utilization. Before we used to say, yeah, let's have it because it's cool to say, are 90% occupied, but occupancy has changed. Occupancy is not the same as it was in December. Now it's all about who is actually in your building and how long are they there for. And we utilize certain patented technology to identify how long people are in the building, for how long. Because the thing is, at the moment, because there's a lot of hybrid working, you don't know whether the 20 people who are attending of this company is actually the same people on Tuesday and the same people on Thursday. We see instances where we have a company of 150 people and we always see 20 people coming in at the same time. And the biggest question we had was, okay, out of those 20 people, are they the same 20 people? Or is it team A, team B, team C? So we had to work around with different technologies and be a bit innovative to try and understand, are those 20 people the same people coming on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? So yeah, it was a big head scratcher. And again, there is an element of knowing when you're checking into a building, when you check out of a building. So there are a lot of things where with Wi-Fi, you can't. People leave their laptops behind. So this person essentially is never checking out. If you try with the mobile coverage, people might not have Bluetooth switched on. And we see a lot of that lately. There's a lot of scare of people hacking via Bluetooth. So it was really, really hard for us to find something. But in the end, again, because Nexudus is such an open, has the two-way API and is so open, we work very closely with Adrian to try and deploy different technologies. I'm pretty sure we scratch his head most of the times because we're always trying to invent. It's like we're going to Mars every week. And it's always like sometimes projects pass and sometimes projects fail. But at the moment, I think COVID has really given us a new perception of stuff. It's a test bed, but the most important thing we've seen is we're starting to use a test and learn methodology. So we implement something, we analyze the data, we create an MVP, and then deploy phase one. In the past, we used to just go ahead, all horns blazing and just implement. And then at the end of it, you go like, I remember, I think I spoke to Naveed about 3 years ago when he was opening his space, and he was talking about F&B integration. We tried it, but then what happened after we implemented all that integrations, or no one wanted to use it. So it's different cultures. People wanted to say, no, we would rather if someone delivers to our office as opposed to us ordering. And again, it depends on the different cultures. It depends on different people in the organization. The CEO normally expects something to him. He doesn't expect to click. Then there are the younger entrepreneurs who are CEOs who would rather walk out and go for a little walk and go and get their own coffee, without having restriction. So yeah, it's all about test and learn. And this year, there is an element of we're learning new things. We're constantly deploying multiple minimum viable products, whether it's on the app, whether it's on the website, which we said about the day pass. That was not something that we saw a lot of competitors doing it, but now even we deployed it because customers were asking us for it. So we need to be agile, and all the platforms around us need to be as agile to help us achieve this in the limited amount of time.
Yeah, that's a very good comment, because the thing is that some people felt like pandemic has happened, so everything has stopped. No, actually, technology-wise, that's the moment when it's the most needed, the agile approach and developing the product and developing the offering you have, adjusting quickly to the changes, because the moment if you are not agile and you are not quick enough, someone else is quicker, right? And someone else implements this and they give this space for your customers to go away. And that's with any industry. That's with the actually space as a service, and that's for the software provider as well. I haven't seen our technical team more busy than during this time. Like, you can't really reach them because they constantly do something. So that's the thing. Like, you actually need to be agile and test, as you say. Test this, doesn't work, maybe on small amount of customers, maybe on one building, as you say, and see if it's working. If it's working, you can launch it further. Actually, I had one question, which is we kind of answered, James kind of answered, which is from Adam. So he says that lots of discussion about access control and check-ins. How about the checkouts? What are the panelists doing to monitor not just occupancy, but how long different types of members use their spaces? I know if some of you want to comment on this one.
I mean, I can be very quick and just say at the very lowest end, total we have about 50 members. So for us, our access control and sort of check-in system isn't automated at all, but we can, when it's even on a busy day at the moment with COVID, we're going to see a maximum of 15 people throughout the day. It's not too hard for us to keep track of, so we can check people in and out. And the back-end system is very, very efficient. Soon with Zapier, we're going to have a little bit more of a speedy, quick process. But yeah, that's it for us.
Yeah, that's a good comment. And James, you mentioned that you said that the Wi-Fi technology didn't work, so you basically check it on the card, right? So I don't know what kind of different types of members you have as well, whether you can see whether the co-working members are coming more nowadays versus the office members. Can you comment on that?
Well, it's pretty even, to be honest. I think the smaller companies are a bit more adventurous. They actually come out to the office more, whilst the enterprise customers, you hear on the news about the office, the new normal. And a lot of tech companies like Facebook, Dropbox, they will say we are first, we're going to be hybrid first, or we're going to work in a different way. We don't actually need all this space. We need to scrunch. So we are testing a multitude of things, from what Naveed was saying, RFID stickers to analyze whether people are walking out of the building, Bluetooth technology on the app. But there's no one solution. There's no one solution. There has to be a multitude of solutions working together to give you the outcome you need and giving you the data you need. At the end of the day, as much as COVID has been disruptive, it's also been a blessing, hence why you guys with Nexudus are busy, because it's a time for technology to evolve. I think even technology itself, we're all complacent in the eyes where that's the way it works. Let's not question the fundamentals. But the thing is, this is a time where even my team, we haven't been like in lockdown before and now. All we do is we're actually busier than when we have, 5,000 members all active in our buildings. It's no joke. It's because we test and learn, and we're working on an approach of validated learning. So we make sure that everything we do is data tracked, and that tracking is then it goes into an MVP, and then from then we can say, okay, let's try this. So it's a test and learn. At the moment, there's no one solution, but what we're seeing is you need to have a multitude of endpoints to get to that one answer you need, but it is achievable. We have a prototype. It's actually successful. It's just now we're just tweaking on how to charge and stuff like that, which we're working with Nexudus on, which is that their base product. But obviously, because we are complicated and we do things differently, Adrian's scratching his head. Okay, how can we sort of tweak this to help James achieve this? So yeah, that is a very typical scenario for Fora. But like I said, we're trying a multitude of technologies, but I think it's a mixture of them together, working together. As long as there's that integration, they all speak, and then there's one location where everything collates, then that is the right solution for the checkout process. And that answers the question.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well commented. I wonder how is in case of Navid. What do you see in Dubai going on? Because you also have quite flexible memberships and the office memberships. Let us know.
Yeah, so we started this space as being the very selective members only place where we select only creative entrepreneurs, architects, painters, and vloggers, bloggers, and all. But since pandemic, we opened up almost to everyone, just to cover up the cost and all. So we never had an onboarding system. I mean, we never used the Nexudus CRM. We had a different way of getting the applications. But since pandemic, we integrated the CRM and we are collecting all the applications through the website. Now, during the pandemic, what different we did it, we opened up a remote work space concept, wherein companies outside they close their contract with the private office for the whole year. So they rather prefer to have a virtual meeting room once a week, twice a week, and for the rest of the days they can work from home. So we are inviting and approaching to those companies, and just to save the cost at the same time, not to integrate them with the Nexudus, we created our own booking kind of a system on WordPress, something very economical and quick solution for us to adapt, just as a prototype to see that how this concept will work, and then we can make the modifications accordingly. So people are submitting their interest for joining this remote workplace for a day or for 2 days in a week, and then we give them the pricing accordingly, which could have been restricted when we do it with Nexudus, because that could impact our membership plans and all of these things. So we did it in WordPress. I mean, a very quick solution to adapt. But only the time will tell us the story that how long we have to go along with it, and how integration will work in the near future. But yeah, it depends on the business to business approach. I mean, it is the demand of the operations. I mean, the operation team never thinks of how technology will work. They will just come up with a concept, okay, and then they will try to explain it to you, and then you need to design a solution for them, and that has to work both for the customer and at the same time for the operational team at the co-working space. Yeah, it is all about the operational paradigm altogether.
Yeah, very, very, very well said. I mean, we sometimes, yeah, as you say, like sometimes it's better to separate some process just to know what are the outputs of those processes, so the data is hosted somewhere else and you can exactly control this environment.
Exactly.
We are coming to the end actually, but I just wanted to ask one question that you know what I'm going to ask. So each of you will have like 1 minute to comment on it, really. So my question is, what is the must-have and what is a nice-have regarding the technology? And I will give the microphone first to Shabat.
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna take the standard consultant answer and say it depends, right? Yeah, I think as each of the guys have said, and hopefully that comes across from the answers as well, that the answer is very relevant. It depends on the space and their needs and their size and their market and all of that. So, and kind of also responding to the earlier topic about what was happening during COVID and what's happened this year, I think that is a huge factor as well. So it depends on the environment that we're in, and where technology was originally, let's keep the infrastructure running smoothly, provide a slick, frictionless member experience, and have a little bit of virtual. We saw that then flip on its head, and spaces went virtual. So those things that were nice to have before became must-haves. You know, all of that stuff that was like, yeah, we kind of want a virtual community, but really it's all about the people in here, and it's all about the people in the space. Flipped around, because it's the same people, but now they need the virtual communities, and that became a hugely important thing. What then happened for a lot of spaces that we know we work with is they used to have staff in there that were looking after it, and then suddenly with COVID, the staff were no longer there. So the need that then became, how can we run a space with technology? How can we have access control, automatic Wi-Fi check-in, CCTV? How can we do all of this stuff without anybody actually there, so that our members who are, you know, they may need to keep working, need to come and go. So it's very situational, very dependent on the environment we're in. Now we're getting back in, and it's things like, okay, how do we do contactless? How can we have access control that's in the app? People don't want to push doors, don't want to touch handles, all of that stuff. So I think it is very much, so it's probably not much of an answer, but we certainly see working with small and large spaces, whether they're premium, mid-range, or, you know, the lower end. It's very much, it depends on the needs of the space. But I think the nice thing about this ecosystem is having something like Nexudus sitting in the middle of it means that you can integrate with all the different components that fit your needs, and then you can hopefully tailor a solution that makes sense. And as Naveed was saying, you know, you can build it yourself as well if you want to. There's an API. I mean, the guys have all used the API. We use it all the time. So if there's something that you think, actually, doesn't exist yet, just build it yourself, and it'll work. So I think that's one of the nicest things.
Yeah, API isn't as scary as people think, because it's when you hear the API, everyone is like, oh, API, like I'm not a developer. But sometimes it's not that costly to build those cool parts of the software yourself, if even the most flexible solution isn't made for all exactly. So you definitely need to adjust.
And as Chris was saying, Zapier, you know, it's free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to write any code. You don't have to do anything. You just literally say, I want to connect this to this, and you're done. So yeah, all you need is 10 minutes.
Fantastic. And Chris, what is your comment on that? Must have and nice to have.
So I mean, for us, the must have stuff is definitely like everything that we've got. So I mean, we've basically, I'd say that the core Nexudus systems moved us 95% of the way from being I was working at the time, so I can't say a disorganized mess, but it was, you know, it was quite disorganized, and it was all over the place with different systems. And then suddenly everything, I mean, one thing I didn't even mention is the fact it included, like, the price that we were getting Nexudus for included website hosting and a website, which, you know, our old website was a nightmare. So, you know, these little things made a huge difference for us. Going on from that, there's lots of little things that I'm now like nitpicky and getting to play with. So the CRM, you know, the core CRM is great, but now actually expanding it as a full pipeline system of actually getting, you know, leads, that's going to be a big area to look into going forward. And then a couple of things that one thing I really want to see from, I'm just putting it out there in case some of the next guys are listening, is have a revisit of some of that digital signage stuff at some point, because I'd like to get my digital signage up and integrated with Nexudus as well. So that's one I'm going to be fiddling with.
All right, let us know via email, obviously, and we can talk about. Great. And Naveed, what is your opinion on that? Must have and nice to have.
So I'll start with nice to have. It's nice to have the Wi-Fi checking, because as we earlier came to the conclusion that it depends on the size of the space. For small spaces, it may not be a must-have thing, but for a medium-sized or large space, it's a good thing to have, because at least you get the information. Maybe not 100% accurate, but at least you get the 80% of the record about the behavior of your members. Based on that, you can create the membership, or you convince them that what suits best for them. So you get to know about the behavior of the people, what time they come, they go, and what kind of meetings they have, and all, how many guests they have. So it's a nice thing to have. But in all, what is must have is the community section, I can say, to be honest, because here people are always, by default, people are shy. Because of some people have attitude issues, some people are not so bubbly to chat with the other people, so they are always very curious that what other person is doing, what he's all about. But co-working space were meant to be for the socializing, for the networking and all. That's why people prefer to go for a co-working or the shared spaces. But if we don't give them an opportunity to interact, they may never interact with each other, even for a period of 1 month, 2 months. By the time it's already too late. So a community section, particularly in Nexudus, is amazing. But we are right now trying to customize in a way where we endorse people's work. We showcase what they do, so people get to know without showing off that, oh, I have completed this kind of a work, but they get appreciation. Oh, I saw this on the app. Amazing, thumbs up. They like these feeds. Actually, we are planning to implement. It's a kind of our own social media. Within the networking space, they post things. Initially, we were trying to avoid it. We thought of maybe they may criticize space facilities and all, and they may post the wrong things on the app. But eventually, we realized that no, they can't be so, because we are 2 years old and we don't have those many complaints. So we are implementing that, and that community section altogether is playing an important role for someone to get recognized and to get references of each other. A software developer has some work with someone, I get contacts. So it's a must-have thing, which is already there in Nexudus, but it is better to utilize it very well. Just use it. There's a beautiful function out there. Try to use it. Yeah.
This is, I think, very rarely when talking about the technology, we talk about the community, actually. Like, we talk about all those cool things, but after all, the most important here are the people about those spaces. Thank you, David. Okay, James, and what's your must-have and nice-to-have?
I would say the must-have at the moment, because of the amount of different development we do, is probably a go-to team that we can chat once a month to see what the roadmap is on Nexudus, because sometimes we develop stuff and then Nexudus create it right after, so it's a waste of development resource. I'd rather do something that is not in the pipeline. So having that is probably a must-have, because it's something, especially, it's mostly for the bigger customers, the enterprise, or the bigger operators, but it would be useful to have that one channel and not always call like Adrian to get stuff done, because I think he's pretty busy running the business. The like-to-haves would be, one thing we're actually seeing a lot is the requirement for compliance. So when you're signing up, you want to know if the person is verified, if this person, for anti-money laundering, now with all this stuff going and with Brexit happening, there'll be different laws, So there are areas where throughout the bigger competitors build their own, or they piggyback off. There are a couple of big providers who have their own solution, and they have an open API to them, because we've spoken to them. But the thing is, it would be good to have it inside the fundamental system. When you're signing up, why don't you verify yourself? See who you are, your address. And it gives less issues to the operation teams, and also for the finance teams to say, okay, again, in London, it's stricter, especially with the FCA. So especially when you have bigger companies like gambling companies or gaming companies, banks. So those require this sort of, even for ISO certification, obviously we ourselves make sure our comms rooms everywhere and our infrastructure is ISO certified, but they would require that everyone entering the building is also verified, so they know who is it. They trust us for running their building, that it's a safe environment and everything is sort of compliant to a certain extent. Again, it's not a must-have, but it would be a nice-to-have.
Yeah, I think this is something that people also don't talk much, don't think about this until something happens, right? Yeah. So that's a good point, that this is something that people need to consider when generally opening their business for their membership for other people. All right, I don't want to hold you longer, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your opinions, for sharing basically inside out whatever you are doing, which is really great. I'm sure everyone was getting something from this panel. Yeah, and obviously we will have more webinars coming in, so we will be talking more about the access control, data you were mentioning as well, and then preparing for the reopening after COVID. All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.